So at this point, this is what the shader looks like. You can basically use it like this. It only supports one light. We'll be doing that at the very end and adding more light support. And we're basically just maxing this section together over and over. But before that, we're going to be making a Fresnel and a gloss effect. But let's dive into the Fresnel. Now the Fresnel is one of the more complicated ones. So I'm going to have the point light on for this section, but it looks a bit strange having that sun in the sky. I think we need to just make it go down. And we can see now that in the night we have a light. So when we turn from behind, we want to create a Fresnel effect on our head, which glows around. The light wraps around the character. Now the easy solution here would be to add a Fresnel and maybe put this value up to 3. Put in a step node to make it a hard edge. We will set the edge to be at 0.1, and from here we can just take a max node and see which is the most of these two and plug it into our chain. And if we hit save now, we now have a Fresnel effect, except it's gigantic and it does not care about the light being in front or behind the character, and we have no control over this. So we want actually this effect just appear when we are looking with the light behind the character, and not when we are looking from this direction. So to make this a bit more evident, we can have a multiplier here and multiply by 2. We can make this controllable and this controllable in a little bit. And we hit save on this. And we can now see where we have our Fresnel effect. Yes, very, very bright and everything. We can dim the light a little bit so we can see a bit better. Now we can see we have Fresnel effect everywhere, no matter which direction we're looking at the model, and that's not quite what we want. We have to have a little bit more of a complicated setup than just this, but this will also be the basis of it. So we got the first part done. You can also see that we multiplied this in before the color, so the light's color will also affect the Fresnel effect. So here we are combining things together, but we're putting the color multiplier afterwards, so the Fresnel will be affected by the light color. So we want the view direction to influence where the Fresnel effect appears. We also want the surface normals to influence them, and we also want the light direction to influence them. So we got all these different directions, and we want the Fresnels only to happen in a certain scenario where all of these align in a certain combined way. We want to make sure that we normalize both the view direction and the normal vector, because without this, things start to get really weird. And we want to reverse the normal vectors. And to reverse something, we will multiply it by -1. A quick little trick here: if you want to multiply a vector 3 with -1, you just take a vector 1 and hook in and do -1, so you don't have to type -1 3 times over, and it looks very messy. So this is a quick way to do that. Then we want to add these two vectors together. So we have the normal vector combined with the view vector, so they kind of influence each other, and you have a combination of the two. And obviously when you're adding vectors together, they are no longer normalized, which is the length of 1, so we want to normalize again. There's a lot of normalization here, but do not skip on them. They have their purpose. And if you try to remove them, you will see that you will get some not accurate results anymore. Because my first instinct with working with this was that a normal vector should surely already be normalized and a view direction, but they are not quite normalized. And yeah, you get some interesting artifacts when you don't normalize them first. Now that we have the surface vectors and the view vector combined into one, and we reversed one of them, we can take the dot product between the light's direction and this new vector we created. And once we take the dot product of these, let's plug this straight into our color node to see what's actually going on and if we have any sensible results. So looking at this, we seem to have created something. So when we are looking from the light's point of view, things are quite bright. And when we are behind the light, it's all dark. It seems to be the opposite of what we want. So what we can do then is remap this and reverse the values. So here it's towards the light is white and away from the light is 0. It's -1, which is what the dot product returns. Back to our cool little setup. We will delete this here and replug this back in again. And we will remap this value from the dot product from -1 to 1. And for this one, we want to take it from 1 to 0. Let's see. Let's make ourselves some more space. We want to then multiply these two together, so they cancel each other out. So where they are both black, they will show nothing, and where both of them are bright, we will have a result. Now if we plug this now in, and we look at the outputs, let's see. We now have a Fresnel effect, which turns on mostly from behind, but it seems to be quite a bit of it from the front as well. So in order to control this Fresnel effect much better, we will be adding in a few parameters in our blackboard. Let's close this up so we can see a bit better. To control this Fresnel effect better, we want to add in 3 different parameters we can control. We want to know the Fresnel size, and it can have a default value, maybe 10, as well as be a slider we can easily tweak from 10 to maybe 50. From 0 to 50, I mean, sorry. And we'll have another vector one. It will be the Fresnel angle. Now this can have a default value of probably -1, and it will be a slider. We will have it from -30 to 1. Then the last value we want to create is the color, which will be the Fresnel intensity. So we can control it. We will give this the default value of 1, so it doesn't have any effect when you first multiply it in. And now let's reorganize these a little bit. We want to have the shader gradient on the top, probably Fresnel size, the Fresnel angle, and Fresnel intensity, and having the lights on the bottom, because these are set by the code. So we don't want to concern ourselves with this, and we can close this back up again. Now the Fresnel size we will take into the power node, and the Fresnel angle we're going to take into remap, so we can control both of these effects individually. Now this can be a vector 2, where we take the x factor will always be from 1, but we want it to -1 by default. Or whichever value you put, you can put it down to -30 or 50 was it. Then we want to, at the very end here, multiply this with the color, so we have the possibility to control the intensity of our effect. Now let's just tidy this up a little bit. Close the blackboard, and we can group this together and call it Fresnel. Now let's see if this actually worked. Remember to hit save. Chances are that the default values are probably all set correctly. Yes, they are. Now we have a much thinner line, but it's very weak. So let's, yeah, okay, there's one more thing. Now I did one mistake here. Whenever we do these intensities, we want to make sure that they are in HDR mode. So we will hit that and hit save. Sorry, I did another mistake here. I put the light color in here. We were supposed to put the Fresnel intensity, of course, into this one. And yeah, that went a bit too quickly for me. So, okay, with the Fresnel intensity hooked up correctly, we hit save, and we can now look at the result here. Yes, there we go. Now we can see that we have a very strong Fresnel effect from behind, and we don't see any of it from the front. Maybe we have made it a little bit too strong, so let's go down in intensity a bit. There we go. Intensity of 2. So we can see that the Fresnel effect starts to happen here. We can turn up the size of it by actually reducing the value logically. And you can see it completely disappears on the front, and it starts appearing at this angle here. But which angle it appears at, we can control with this Fresnel angle. So we can have it wrap around the entire way from every angle, or we can reduce the angle a bit, and it will only be at the more select angles, which is away from the light. Now we have a really nice Fresnel effect going on here. So at the end of this is what our shader looked like. Next, we want to start working on the gloss effect. We'll be plugging that in here, so I'm going to make some more space for us. And I'm also going to be hooking up a preview node here. This is a neat little trick. A preview node doesn't actually do anything, but if you want something close to you while working with how to go in the back and forth all the time, I'm just taking the color straight up into the preview here, so when we do things, we can preview them quickly. So for the gloss effect, we are going to take the very similar approach to the Fresnel, to what we built here in the Fresnel, but a simpler version of it. It's not as complicated, but we're going to take the view direction again, and we're also going to take the light direction, and we're going to also take the normal vector. So this time we're going to be combining these three, but in a slightly different way, where there will be a slight gloss effect depending on which angle you view it from. So you will take and normalize the view. We will this time add it with the light instead of adding it in with the normal. So a combination of where you're looking from with the light, and we want to normalize after we add two vectors together. Good rule of thumb right there, always normalize after adding vectors, so it will be greater than 1. Then we want to take a normal vector, normalize that one as well, and we want to take the dot product between these. See the dot product between this one and that one, and we can now see what have we got here. Let's hook that into our preview, which is hooked into our color. Let's have a look at the scene. So we now see that the light moves a little bit at the back of him. So we got something going on here, but from the front, everything looks very normal. But we're going to be remapping this a little bit to make it interesting. But yeah, we can see there's certainly it's like gloss going on here. So yeah, we're on the right track, but it's not quite there yet. Now, if we take this into a power node, and then we hook this into a stepper, because we want everything to be hard edge. And we're going to put the stepper to 0.1, and then we multiply this with the intensity. So these last few steps here are very straightforward how to wrap up the final product of your shader. So for this one, we can create a vector 1, which is going to be the gloss size. Now the default value of this can probably be around 20. We can put it into sliders, we have a bit more fine control of it, and we can probably let it go all the way up to like 200 or something. And we will basically let this be hooked up to our power node. And then we can create a color, which we're going to call gloss intensity. Now, like last time, we need to remember to keep this into HDR mode and make it white. And we will be hooking this one up straight into the final multiplier, so we got fine control over how much this effect will actually do. Tidying this up a bit, moving the glosses a bit further up in the hierarchy here, keeping the lights on the bottom. Save that, and let's have a look here. Now let's see our beautiful monkey. Yes, now that is glossiness. And you can see that it's shining from the light's direction and also wrapping a little bit around from where the light is. So let's start to combine this into the rest of the shader. Now let's take the end of this and go with another max node. This will just take the highest value between the two and forward only the greater one in that location. Let's close that up. Let's group this as gloss. Delete this preview node and hook this back up again. Okay, so at this point our shader looks like this. We have our shade, Fresnel and gloss all hooked up and combined with maximum nodes and multiplied at the end with the color before we put them into the texture and the ambient lighting and go into the color. So if we hit save on this, we can see what everything looks like combined together. Now, we probably don't see much of our gloss effect going on here because we haven't multiplied it any significant amount. So if we go here and increase the intensity, there we go, we have the gloss effect. We can obviously make our gloss as well red if we wanted it to be by doing this. So you can see the difference from the gloss and the Fresnel. So the Fresnel is white and the gloss is that red highlight. Resetting the values back again, we can also see the fact that we can control the size of the glossiness. So whether we want it really big or if you want it really fine and small. You can go into the up to 200 here. You can also set it higher if you so prefer. So that is it really, apart from if you want multiple lights. So let's get around to that part. Now for us to support multiple lights with this shader, we have a blackboard. We can see here that wherever our directional light or color is present, this always needs to be repeated for each light, which basically means this entire section. But to solve this, Unity has something fancy called subgraphs, which will make this much easier. But before we do that, we want to make sure that wherever our nodes are repeated, that we combine them into one beforehand. So we can take these and delete the groups. It's a good idea. And then here we have the color. This is also the color, so we hook them up to the same one. Then we had the directions, which are these three. So there's no repeated nodes, otherwise they're going to be repeated inputs. You take the gloss over here and find every node that stands out and pull them away. Now with all the inputs moved off to the side, we can select the entire graph and we can right click and convert to subgraph. Now we're going to go into Toon Shader and call this Toon Shader subgraph and save this out. And voila, we now have one massive node with lots of inputs. We can tidy this up a little bit. We will go into the subgraph by double clicking it, hook this in here and maximize this. Hit save. Right, so everything looks a bit messy, but let's tidy this up quickly. Basically placing everything back the way they were. And then we can regroup it again. So this was grouping for the gloss. This was the Fresnel. And this was the shade. And then we have everything combining together into the final output. Now with all that done, the last thing we want to do is just to sort our properties a little bit. So they are all jumbled up on the left here in the blackboard. We can take all the lights and move to the bottom. And we can also rename this from light 1 because it will just be now the light direction, and this will be the light color. Doesn't matter which number it is, because the numbers of them we will be controlling elsewhere. And move the shading gradient to the top. So shading gloss for now, that seems good. Save this. Back in the parent shader we have this. Let's start cleaning this up a little bit. Okay, so we tidied this up a little bit. We now have basically the same result, but we have made a subgraph out of it. All these inputs, they're just going to be forwarded, and this is the light, so they will be repeated. We can take this entire thing and copy and paste it. Now we want to replace these inputs for each one we do. So on the blackboard, we can now create some more. Vector tree light to direction, and this will be named then underscore L2 underscore dir. And here we will create the color, which is light to color. This will underscore L2 underscore color, and repeat the process. And there we go. After you're done typing in all your different light vectors and color, we have a shader which now supports as many lights as we bothered to make. In our case, this is 6 lights. On with our new inputs, we can now throw out the light, and hook this up. Get the third light out. With all the lights ready to go, we can start hooking this all up. Copy, paste, delete this one, take that one, hook this in, that in. And there we go. Now we have hooked everything together. Now we're going to combine them, and we're going to use the maximum node. So max B and hook A in here. And then we're going to take the output of max into another max B into the max A. And we're just going to basically go up the hill like this. And finally we have the final max node. We will combine this with that. and then hook it in to this one. And now our shader supports as many lights as we want to. I haven't honestly noticed any performance issues with how many lights, but I'm sure that you will reach some point where you shouldn't be going anymore. On our Susan, in our Toon helper, we need to configure the number of lights here to match with the number of lights our shader supports. So we can just increase this value to match that amount, and it will be setting those variables. It doesn't matter if it's too many, but you will then do unnecessary calculations, and you can cap it down to the number of correct lights, so you will do only the calculation that it actually needs to do. So now we can take our light, duplicate it. We can now see that, yes, we can indeed support multiple lights in various different colors. So yeah, now we have a well-lit Susan from all angles with lots of colors, and the shader is working with full Fresnel, gloss, and everything from every light point. So that's really the whole shader with multiple light support and everything. There's one final thing I want to bring in, and that is the light flicker script from the repository, which is just a very simplistic C# script which makes the light range, position, and intensity change slightly over time. So if we throw this light flicker script onto our light, we will now see that we have some controls here for how much it's going to move in the different areas. We can tweak that and how fast they go. If we now enable play mode, we can see the fact that our character responds to this light changing in radius and intensity. And you get this really nice effect with the light flickering across the character's face. Isn't that beautiful? And most of this movement is actually not coming from the position of the light moving, but rather the range, as we have how much this moves depends on the gradient we choose. So if we turn the positioning all the way, turn the position to 0, you can see the light is standing still. And we can now change this shading gradient, and we can see we have different effects. If we make it one of the straight gradients, like A1, you can see that the intensity changes, but the line does not move because the light attenuation, which we are controlling up and down, is not changing on the gradient. It's just staying on the top all the time. Or it's not staying on top. It doesn't matter where it is. While if we have a slanted one, we see the fact that we will be moving up and down this gradient, and that causes the light to move like this. And we have all these interesting results where you can play around with it, actually make it into a smooth shaded one, or we can have it feel a little bit translucent with this one. So like we could almost see through the monkey a little bit. Or we can have some really interesting color gradients. But also this one is quite an interesting one where we are, the closer to the light we turn more towards yellow, and further away from the light we will then turn more towards red and dark. So we can see if we take Susan and move her close to the light, she turns yellow, and far away from the light she will turn red. So we have this type of control over how the light works. And you can imagine this works really nice, for example, if it was a fire or something like that. But this is obviously on the model and not on the light itself. So that will be global, depending, no matter how many lights you have in the scene. That's really it. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this shader. If you have some suggestions or things you think could be better about it, please open an issue on GitHub or share your experiences in the comments down below, and let me know how we can make this a better shader. But already I'm thinking that this shader has gotten quite a lot of love, at least from me of late. Maybe a bit too much of that.